All systems are a go.
Confirming all systems are a go. Launching the podcast.
3, 2, 1.
This is Hello from Mars.
I know that Groundhog said that we have 6 more weeks of winter, but I just want to settle everybody's brains here with this, is that his accuracy is about 35 to 40%. So this could go either way, guys. We could get pummeled with snow, or we could get absolutely nothing. And I'm really hoping that it's the latter, to be honest, because we might not have gotten a whole ton considering that we're in, upstate New York, at least in this area, but it's enough. I'm just throwing it out there. Also, for those who may need to know this, when it comes to your lunch today or breakfast or whenever you may actually be watching this, you can celebrate whatever day, but it is National Pizza Day, the day this episode drops. So you're welcome in advance. It has been a crazy week when it comes to country music news. That's for sure. I mean, landmark things that are happening in the country music world. So I have a very special guest who does work in country radio. I met him actually at St. Jude in Memphis back in 2017, I believe, maybe 2016. But my friend Skip is going to be joining the podcast in a little bit. But let's get to Tops and Pop.
Tops in Pop.
I mean, it's not just country music that's making a lot of headlines this week. We are going to get to that whole Morgan Wallen situation just a little bit, but we did lose personally like a childhood icon for me, actually, like as the last episode dropped last week, and that was Dustin Diamond, aka Screech Powers of Saved by the Bell. 44 years old, lived a very, I guess we'll call it rough, not necessarily always portrayed as the good guy in the media, but I mean, found out that he had stage 4 small cell lung cancer only a matter of weeks ago, and it happened that quickly. And that is, I mean, somebody can be here today and gone tomorrow. That's why it's so important to cherish every single moment. But I'm hoping you already know that. So may he rest in peace. I know that over the last few years, some of the cast members of Saved by the Bell kind of did get reacquainted with him a little bit. So definitely feeling that loss in the 90s childhood fandom of everything. Also, you're probably well aware, like, people are starting to get the COVID vaccine, right? But some people are also trying to scheme their way to skip the line. One of those people, a name you probably didn't even know up until this past week, but Stacey Griffith. She is a SoulCycle trainer and used that trainer part of her title to consider herself an educator. I'm using air quotes, so if you're not watching this on YouTube, you had no idea. But air quotes are very, very necessary here because there's an educator that's like, in a real school trying to mold the minds of our youth. And then there's a woman that rides a bike every day. I mean, do you see the difference? So she could actually face some criminal charges for, basically lying to get herself to the front of the line for the COVID vaccine. So just know that if you attempt to defraud the system, they're going to come back and they're going to kick your ass. That's just really what it is. So yeah. And then really 2 very wild, crazy stories. We see this happen every once in a while, but I feel like with Groundhog's Day, maybe we're just getting like double whammies out here in all sorts of different ways. But Marilyn Manson, former girlfriend Evan Rachel Wood, she disclosed a whole situation about abuse and named him as her abuser. She has been very talkative over the last week, and more women are coming out with different stories about Marilyn Manson. His manager of 25 years has dropped him. He had a welfare check a few days ago for his mental health because of everything. But more and more stories keep coming out. So if you want to know more about that weird thing, go ahead and hit Google. But, there are artists that are out there, musicians like Eminem, who puts on a shtick. He puts on an act. He isn't Marshall when he's being Eminem, and he isn't Eminem when he's being Marshall. It's just a character. And I think a lot of people thought that was the case with Marilyn Manson, and we're learning differently now. So there's also a story. Phoebe Bridgers, who was the musical guest on SNL this past weekend, she's saying that she, for whatever reason, was at his house when she was a teenager, and and I apologize for using this word because I know it can be very triggering for people, but he has a rape room, and I don't really know what that means. Maybe that's some sort of weird 50 Shades of Grey crap that's going on in that house, but it's not good, and it's definitely not good right now for that to come out for him, because it's all leading in a bad direction. That being said, there's also somebody else in the news, and this is going to make my dad go, well, I probably could have seen that coming, because every time I used to play his song on the radio, I would get a text that said, this effing song is so effing awful. But Silento, the rapper Silento, he had You Watch Me Whip and Nay Nay, that song. Apparently he murdered his cousin. Yeah, that's there, and I don't know what to do with that. So that's where I'm going to end that today. That's your Tops and Pop. And it's a weird, weird week. That's what it is. And we're going to continue with that weird week when it comes to, and honestly, like a monumental week for country music news when it comes to the country music industry. My friend Skip, he has been in country radio for, I'm not even going to say how many years because he might get offended by that. But he's been in the industry for a very long time. I'm sure he has seen a lot of different gateways to positive change and different things. But we're going to talk about the whole Morgan Wallen situation. And also, we now have an signed on the charts country male artist. And it's just, we couldn't ask for anything better, I think, right now. Let the pride flag wave. So welcome, my friend Skip. Every once in a while, you come across a human that you just connect with, and we literally, we were together for like 2 days in Memphis in 2017.
Yeah.
It has been that long already.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and we've just kind of stayed in touch ever since, and we are in the same state, but we met in Memphis, and it's just kind of a weird situation. But I'm so glad to be able to have you on the pod, and you've been in country radio for, do we want to say how long?
You can say how long. Actually, I started country radio. I started in radio like in the latter part of the 70s. So what does that tell you? But I did a lot of AC, pop AC type of formats, but then I'll tell my story right now if you want.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So I was working for, of course, one of the big corporate companies, and I was on their AC station doing afternoons, and then they decided to put a country station on. And they came to me and said, you know what, we're going to move you from this to the country station, and we're going to take a guy from the country station, going to move him over to the AC. The adult contemporary. That was the format. And I went, are you shitting me? Is this really going to happen? Is this because, country was, I said, I could never do country.
I said that too, to be honest. I was in pop radio for like 14 years, so.
Yep. And totally. And I'm like, oh God, I'm not a country person. How am I going to do this? This is my career, but how am I going to do it? But you know what? Within 2 weeks of making the move, and I think at that time, Garth had like 6 singles in the top 10.
Right.
It was just huge. And I went, I absolutely love this. I don't want anything but. I fell in love with the format, just the music. I ended up listening to it in the car. I listened to it at home. Just so passionate and dedicated. Now, I couldn't believe I felt that way at one time. But
yeah, no, I was the same way. And, because for me, it was all of a sudden I was a budget cut, and then I end up across the street on the country station, and I'm like, yep. I just didn't want to move. Like, that was my whole thing. Like, I just wanted to stay local. I wanted to be home. Like, that's always who I've been. I've never wanted to move. I always had the dream of being on the one station that I was on the longest, actually. It was my dream job. I had it forever. And then, so when I lost it, I was like, whatever. I've lost everything anyway, so let's just give it a whirl. And then, it just so happened that at that point, country had taken that pop swing. So it's a lot of singer-songwriter type stuff, but with a more pop element in there. And I mean, instantly, I was like, I love Thomas Rhett. I love Dan and Shay. Brett Young had come out. Like, I love him. Kelsey Ballerini. Like, all these artists that, you know, they keep that root of the singer-songwriter, and it's very storytelling. But, you know, it can grasp onto just about any music fan, which I love.
Yeah, it's just once I made it, like I said a moment ago, that there's no looking back. I mean, I absolutely love it. And I'm so fortunate to have been in the format now for a good number of years. I've been in and out of a couple of stations, but it's been right here in my own market in the Northeast. So it kind of worked out pretty good. I was offered, I can tell you this, I almost went to Pensacola. Almost went to Florida, like down in Orlando and Clearwater, those areas. But they said, you know, we pay in sunshine. I'm like, well, that doesn't pay the bills.
That's like all of radio. Like, they'll say that in New York, and I'm like, it is not very sunshiny most of the time. So that means no money? Cool.
But I got bills to pay. I got a mortgage to pay.
Right.
Family support.
Yeah, I contemplated, there was an opportunity that I had right after I was a cut the last time from Boston. I had a station that was being like completely revamped in Atlanta. And the moment this guy called me and like flew through all of my references, I was like, I couldn't even like take a breath before it was like happening. And I was like, and I Googled how far it was from home, and I was like, nope, I'm good. Like I'm too family oriented. Like I can't. And then to think, like, had I done that and then the pandemic hit, like I probably would have came home anyway. Like I just couldn't. It's just too much, you know.
You would have been out of a lot as well. I mean, it's not cheap to make these moves, and you know, only to make the move and then find out, okay, you know, we've got to go back to square one. That sucks. That sucks. I know it has happened to a lot of our friends. I get that, and a lot of people, you know, they do what they got to do. But I, like you, I am very much a home person. Like I said, I had those opportunities a while ago, long time ago now. But I am the dad of 3 beautiful daughters. They've given me grandkids now. I went through a divorce at that time too. And I wasn't about to leave my girls. I wasn't. I just couldn't pull myself. I didn't want to do that. You know what I mean? So
I always wonder what goes through everyone's heads when they just like pack up and they just leave everything that they have and the people that they care about. Because like for me, I struggle even with the thought of it. So like when somebody does that move of like, I'm going to Hollywood, I'm like, how? Like, I don't want to say it's selfish, because everybody should go and live their life and do their dream, and because you get one life. But I just have a really hard time, I guess, putting my dream before the people I love, you know? Exactly. But there's a lot of people out there, Marissa, that, you know, you're single, you don't really have a family, and you get an opportunity to go somewhere, maybe on somebody else's dime. You get to see another part of the country. You get to do all that. Maybe you can start your life over. That's great. But then there's a whole lot of us, as you mentioned, being a homebody, me too, you know, and a family. It's very difficult. So it's kind of, it goes either way, I guess. I know. There's one of two people, and I'm the one that stays put.
Hey, do you remember, you know, you mentioned that we met in 2017, but I can remember we were at the what's it, Country Cares radio,
St. Jude,
for St. Jude. And what they did was they put, when we went to dinner, they always put like stations that are close to each other at, you know, separate at tables, table together. That's what I'm saying. And I remember walking in there going, all right, who are these people? Who are we sitting with? Who are we sitting with? And now the rest is history. We had so much fun and got to know, you know, you were right up the road, and it's like, wow, this is cool. This is cool. And we have both been through so much since then. But, you know, said we stayed friends, and I just, you know, I followed you because you are such a talent. Seriously. Now, just hear me out. Don't stop me. But when I see somebody like you, you're on the air in Boston. You were on the air in Boston. I'm going, that girl, that's like going to Hollywood. What, you know, I mean, so you did, in a sense, go to Hollywood. You went to a major market.
Yeah.
How cool is that? And you've got the talent to do that. So
thank you. That it's funny. I kind of predicted my own career, because when I was at the radio school back in 2004, I was incredibly shy. I could not public speak for the life of me, but I, on day one, had to write down my goals, right? And my major goal was I wanted to be afternoons and music director on Fly 92. And that's what I did for, I got that job by the time I was 23. I did it for like 10 years. And then my teacher in that moment was like, well, that's all you want? Like, there isn't any other market that could entice you? And again, always just wanted to be happy at home, right? And I said, I don't know. I mean, if Boston came calling, I guess I'd go. And I didn't seek out that opportunity. That opportunity came to me. They did call me. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I predicted that too. Cool. So, I mean, it was one of those things where, you can't turn that down, and it was close enough to home where, I love Boston. Like, I would go back there.
You're right up the road. So more or less.
So I also want to mention you have because you're in your studio right now at home. This is where Skip happens.
And Skip happens.
Yeah, it's your podcast. Where can people listen to that?
But anywhere that you get your podcast from, you can get Skip Happens. It's also on YouTube. I have a channel, Skip Happens. Subscribe to it. You get notified every time we go live. It's really cool. I have Skip Happens Facebook that we go live on, and I also do it with the Country Music Fan Club. The president and founder joins me every time we do it. Her name's Deb Lamphere. We actually became friends at the Country Radio Seminar, 10, 15 years ago, just like you and I became friends at Country Cares. Well, the same thing with Deb. And so we have the artist reaching out to us, especially now because of the pandemic, to get the needed exposure. And they want to stay in the loop, and they're looking for all different avenues to do that. And as well as I do, we've got those connections, and they call us and say, hey, I want to come on. I want to talk. Yeah. And cool. So that's what we do. We just had Tyler Rich on.
Oh, that's awesome. I love him. Him.
Excuse me. What girl doesn't love him? And he's married to an actress.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what he said to me. I was wearing something. It may have been my hat. I don't know. But he was like, complimented me. And I was like, oh, like, like I had a moment. And I'm not that girl. Like, I'm not the starstruck, like, I'm going to blush kind of girl. But I was just like, so.
But, you must, we're talking about this, and I have Skip Happens, and both you have your podcast going as well, but we both know a lot of people in the right places and a lot of people in the wrong places, but we all make it work. And we know that we're talking about the country radio and the format that the artists that we talk to are real people. Yeah. They don't try to be somebody else. They are no different than you and I. I mean, from Garth all the way down through. And I can tell you a story about Garth when he was here in Syracuse. Shortly after I started at the country station that I was so afraid to be at or be on the air at, we had 2 sold out shows at the Carrier Dome. And of course, we were working the show with the radio station. And I went and bought a program for the concert. And then we were doing the backstage thing. And Garth came over and said, Skip, where'd you get that program? I said, I don't know. I bought it, $5. He reaches in his pocket, pulls out a $5 bill and says, here, you don't buy anything at my shows. And I mean, how cool is that? Now, I don't know what happened to the $5 bill, but it came from Garth's pocket.
That would have been framed. I don't know why you didn't frame that.
I know. You know what? It probably, well, I know it did. It ended up in my jeans pocket. And it probably went through the wash, or my wife stole the $5.
Don't blame the wife.
I'm just saying. Anything that goes into,
he's the same too, by the way. He's exactly the same, because you met him then. I met him only a couple of years ago, and he is the same. Him and Trish are like the most down-to-earth humans I have ever met.
Yep.
Absolutely awesome. Speaking of these artists, it has been a big week in country music. It has been a monumental week, I think, and in a what starts off as negative but ends in a positive way. I think it depends on how you want to look at it. But the stuff with Morgan Wallen What are your thoughts? Because, he's had a couple things in the news. The most recent is this racial slur that he is caught on camera saying. What's your thought process?
What I'm thinking is I love Morgan Wallen. The brand new album kicks ass. I mean, I got to tell you, he's one of the hottest artists out there and all that. But that doesn't give him a right to do what he did or say what he said. You got to think back. This all started, at least some of these issues started to come about when he got tossed from Kid Rock's bar. That he got tossed from there and he had issues. Then he was performing somewhere and ended up partying with a bunch of people and making out with the girls and all this. And we're supposed to be in this COVID quarantine stuff. SNL says you're not coming on.
Yep.
He apologizes. SNL takes him back. And now he goes out with his entourage or his buddies or whatever. They go out, they raise hell. I guess they were downtown having a good time. And they come home. It's the middle of the night. The horns are beeping. People are having a great time and waking up the neighborhood. And, and then to say what he said, he needs to get some help. He needs to go and talk to somebody. And, he's paying the consequences now, obviously. He's been pulled from country radio for the most part. Yeah. His label has dropped him. Other labels are supporting his label for dropping him. The CMAs and the ACMs and all that, they're saying, that's it. You're done for now. But I firmly believe he will be back. And I think he's, they're going to say, listen, Morgan, I might be entirely wrong here, but they're going to say, if you want to continue being successful, you need to get help. We need to talk about your drinking. We need to talk about how you act in public because of who you are, obviously, how to treat your fans, how to treat other human beings. I think until, he's going to be gone until he gets that help. And then, I think we'll hear him again. We'll see him back on the radio, but it's going to be a little bit.
Do you see that happening, but then there also maybe being the double standard for say the Chicks when it comes to the Dixie Chicks? Because for them, it was, a political statement 20 years ago.
But that's different. That was a political statement. And now this is where some people are going to tell me I'm full of crap. But I think anybody has the right to say what they feel. That's your opinion. If the Chicks wanted to get on stage and say that, I understand. I get it. And I know why people reacted the way they did. But that's their right to have an opinion. And sometimes you got to separate the music from those opinions. Right. And they had great music. The case with Morgan Wallen, that was a racist slur. That was terrible, what he said. Nobody should be saying anything like that. I don't care who you are. That doesn't happen. They're two separate things. Okay. Totally, in my opinion.
I know that the NCAA, is it my
NAACP?
There you go, because my dyslexic. But they did reach concussion too. They did reach out to Morgan. Yes. They want to educate him.
And I think that's awesome. Yeah,
to have that olive branch is very. I don't want to say unheard of, but if he accepts it, I feel like that might be the unheard of part. So hopefully, he does, accept that and they go ahead and they get to educate him. Okay, moving on from him, we have another landmark situation with Brothers Osborne and TJ now coming out and admitting that he is gay to the public. And this is the first out man in country music that is currently on the charts. Currently.
But you can go back to Ty Herndon back in the day.
Yeah.
But back in the day, people wouldn't talk about it.
Right.
People, it was all, we all know, it was all kept a secret. God forbid people find out that you're gay or this or that.
But nowadays, that's like that for every form of entertainment and every type of, I feel like that's just life, right? We all try to kind of keep that, we might be out to whoever, but not publicly. And, who needs to know, really? But, in this case, I like how he did it. I like that he's in Time magazine. This is kind of like, this goes back to Ellen. This goes back to, And it makes it so it's a giant step in the right direction. It allows for conversation.
Absolutely. I got friends that are gay. I know. And it's awesome. It's awesome. You are a human being. You are who you are. You're not hurting anybody else. You're not offending anybody. You've got your own life. Enjoy it. If that's what you decide to, who you decide to be or what you decide to do, that's your business. And it should not affect what you do in the public's eye. Should not affect what you do being a musician. Should not affect anything that you do. You do your job. You do it well. Who cares? That's
Correct.
what I say.
Yeah.
And I think he's got a set of balls to go in Time magazine and say, this is what I am.
Yeah.
But it was a secret, but it really wasn't a secret. I actually heard that a while ago. His family and a lot of his closest friends already knew. His brother.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just a matter of time before it happened. Could he have come out earlier? Absolutely. And I don't think it would make much of a difference. Now, if it was years ago, like Ty Herndon, then people go, oh my God, because the deal with Ty Herndon was, he was seen with another guy in a park or whatever. There was something going on. And everybody was like, oh my God. But you know what? Grow up.
I know. It doesn't need to be a scandal. At the end of the day, love is love,
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally applaud him. And, it's one of those things where I like the singles they've released. I've never, ever gone and sought out a Brothers Osborne or an album, but I think I am now because,
absolutely.
I want to support, and he needs to feel that love. And if the one way I can show it is by buying an album, I'll do it,
Go get Skeletons. It's a great album. Yeah. And, he's got that deep voice and he rocks. And the new single, it's called All Night. And I couldn't wait to get on that because it's upbeat, it's feel good, and it's Brothers Osborne.
And they are like the epitome of country music. They are that Southern rock, and they're awesome.
100%.
So I do have some bonus content on the Instagram and Facebook right now with my friend Skip, talking about some country music artists and some fun stuff that, both of us have kind of experienced. If you head over to Instagram and Facebook, just search Hello from Mars Podcast. You can check that out right now. And of course, don't forget, subscribe, follow, all those things. Always posting different stuff. And you can catch up on all the episodes that you missed. There's 10 up there for you to binge. So go ahead, go do that. That being said, we were just talking about Morgan Wallen. And it really made me think about the situation, about 20 years ago with the Dixie Chicks, and just a lot of situations since then. When they just spoke up about some political views, they were banned from the country music industry. Their sales didn't skyrocket like Morgan Wallen's just did, which is ridiculous, by the way. Instead, people were breaking their CDs and burning their stuff, and all because their political view was different than maybe yours or whoever's, which we haven't seen that a lot lately, have we? But that being said, I did post on my Instagram story asking you guys how you feel about women versus men in the entertainment industry, but also in life in general. Do you feel like women are are judged more harshly? And you know what? It was an overwhelming response of yes. And I know that actually kind of firsthand, so I knew where this was going, but I'm just saying. Some of the comments that came through, Brendan said, Lizzo's a good example. She's body shamed. Well, somebody like DJ Khaled, who is, the same size as her, is not only praised, but not as talented as Lizzo is. And I can attest to that. DJ Khaled had his own DJ opening up for Demi Lovato. What do you do? I don't even understand. Let's see. Holly says best example is when Miranda Lambert and Blake Shelton divorced, that whole situation, and then how harshly she was judged for getting remarried. Not even quickly, by the way. She took her time and she found somebody that wasn't even in the industry. She's just trying to live her life. Let her be. Mark says, I feel like women in entertainment have to fit a particular standard. Not everyone is the same. That is very much true. And let's see. Who is this? This is Lori, I believe. Women would not have been given a second chance like Morgan Wallen has. And you know what? We see that with the Dixie Chicks. They did come back around, and yes, people did go to their concert because I was there when they played in Saratoga Springs, New York. 4 years ago maybe, and people went to the show, but anytime you mention them, I mean, the backlash on social media is just bananas. So definitely a double standard for sure. But I hope that can change, because there are so many talented women in the entertainment industry, and I feel like they deserve just as much of a chance as anybody else. Anyway, that's going to be it today for Hello from Mars. I thank you guys for tuning in. I hope everybody is staying safe. Next week, Kelly and Lori are back. It is going to be a Galentine's Day celebration, so I hope that you'll join me for that. And I'll be back in the studio too, probably breaking things or causing problems because, accident prone and all. But guys, be safe. I'll talk to you next week.
Oh, hey!